April 22nd, 2025 meeting. This is a hybrid meeting, so if you're dialing in on a phone, please use *6 to mute and unmute yourselves. Meeting is being recorded by MCTV, and we'll start with a roll call.
Larry Keane here.
Brian Sullivan, present.
Ryan Murphy here.
Heidi Conway here.
Mac Brothers here.
Carl Hens here.
Jean,
I can't unmute myself, sorry.
are you here? Can you hear us, Jean?
You're unmuted, Gene. Oh, no.
All right, well, Jean Lee is here. We can see her. Okay, so we have first hearing, 2522 Green Harbor Yacht Club Incorporated. The petitioner is seeking a special permit in accordance with 305-13.02 C1 and site plan approval under 305-1202 of the Marshfield Municipal Code to add 5 finger floats and modify 3 of the existing finger floats from 36 by 20 to 39 by 20 on property located at 257 Dyke Road, which is further identified on the assessor's maps as being on parcel M060804A and is located in the B4 zoning district. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. You may remember my name is Adam Brodsky. I'm a local environmental and land use lawyer, and I represent the applicant, the Green Harbor Yacht Club Incorporated. And with me this evening are Kevin Collins, the Commodore, Paul DeFreitas, the Treasurer, Brian Stack, the Dock Master, and you know Kevin McGuire, who's a member, but is also consulting. And this is a bit of housekeeping to ensure that what is in the water comports with its waterways license and is also authorized by the town. As you noted, this is a filing to authorize 5 finger floats that have been in the water, but for which they have not been authorized. And as part of the housekeeping, it was realized that 3 of the existing finger floats, when they were rebuilt, were widened. They were widened from 36 inches wide to 39 feet wide. So those 3 finger floats are 39 inches, and 5 finger floats are 36. The property is located within the B4 zoning district, and this is a community facility, which is a special permit use. I haven't run the title, but I believe the last time the board issued a special permit was in 2019, when it authorized reconfiguration zones, and these floats are all interior floats within the reconfiguration zone, as well as maintenance dredging. As you noted, we need authorization for the structures within the coastal wetland district by special permit under section 305-1302, as well as site plan approval under section 305-12.02. The board should know that we received a negative determination of applicability by the Conservation Commission, so no order of conditions was required for these, and the floodplain administrator has issued a floodplain permit. Once we complete all of our local approvals, we will need to amend our Chapter 91 license to ensure that all of the floats in the water are authorized. I believe that Kevin's been consulting with the harbor master. I don't believe that there are any comments, but he may have communicated directly to the board. And with that, Kevin, have I missed something important?
No, one of the issues is the harbor master wanted to make sure there was sufficient water underneath the finger floats. And we began the survey down there Saturday, and we staked out the location of the finger floats. If you walk along the main float system, you'll see little red flags. And at a low tide, you'd have to be there at a low tide. You can look out at a right angle and you can see the PVC pipes that are sticking up for all of the 5 finger floats.
Was Saturday the full moon?
I don't know, I wasn't there at night time. It wasn't a -5, like a 1.5 foot tide. We had to be out there at low tide in order to put the PVC pipes in.
Okay.
I talked to the harbor master today. I told him that there was sufficient water underneath each of the finger floats. He told me he was going to try to get over there and take a look, and if he did, he'd send the board an email. But when I left the house, I didn't see a copy of the email. But we have been touching base with him.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
So that was really the only concern the harbor master had, was that you could,
Well, he had 6 concerns, but we satisfied. Again, it was mostly housekeeping on the number of, he was trying to ensure that the assessor had the boat registrations down there for tax purposes, was his main concern. And again, the finger floats are inside the reconfiguration zone. They're not facing out towards the channel.
Anything else from the board?
I'm good.
Bob, you have anything to offer?
Nope.
Anything from the audience? Go up to the mic, please. Name and address.
Hello, my name is Colin Bono. I'm at 12 Careswell Street. I'm a direct abutter to the Green Harbor Yacht Club, and I'm currently in the application process to install a pier and dock at my house. I currently have a zoning approval that this exact board voted on and granted by a non-unanimous decision. Firstly, with the extent to which the Green Harbor Yacht Club wishes to modify their currently approved configuration, I believe that they must apply for an entirely new Chapter 91 license. The Marshfield Zoning Board has already made a decision regarding the number of boats that the Green Harbor Yacht Club is allowed to have, with a special permit stating that the total number of boats, either moored or in slips at that facility, shall not exceed 46.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you saying boats or floats?
Boats.
Boats with a B?
Boats with a B.
Okay.
Correct. Yep.
That's not in front of us.
Can I provide you with the special permit number, or
Yeah, knock yourself out.
will the special permit number 91-57 and 92-02 with the special condition number 1, the total number of boats either moored or in slips at the facility shall not exceed 46. With the current configuration, the facility is providing space for at least 49 boats, which of course is already in excess of that amount. According to the Green Harbor Yacht Club project narrative, the additional floats would provide 1 float for dinghies to access moored vessels, 1 float for 2 additional boats, 2 additional floats to provide space for 4 boats, and 1 float for the sailing program, which consists of 4 boats. As you noticed when you deliberated on my request to add a dock for myself, that it is in fact congested down there. Adding 5 additional commercial floats would add tremendous amount more congestion to that area, which was a major concern. At the time of my zoning application, the yacht club did not have these 5 floats installed. At the time of my zoning site visit at my property, the yacht club did not have these floats installed. And when the decision was made in my favor, the yacht club did not have these 5 floats installed. It is my opinion that the board should stand by the previous allowance of 46 boats to be moored or in slips at that facility, especially since the problem of overcongestion was a considerable public safety concern shared by the members of the board and the yacht club. Not to mention that this congestion problem could further be compounded as the Green Harbor Yacht Club is also in the business of serving alcohol.
Thank you.
Can we hear from Bob on that?
Bob, you got anything to?
I don't have anything to add. I think that they're here for the right permit, and it's up to you all to decide whether to give them the special permit and site plan approval.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bronson?
Do you have anything to add?
Let me just confirm this number. That's the correct number.
43, Adam,
Yes, sir.
they have 4 sailboats. Maybe he's including 4 sailboats in his tally of 49. sale.
Excuse
But I
me.
don't know where the
We-
49 comes from.
Right, we have 43 slips presently, including the floats that we're talking about within the marina. There are 4 additional sailboats associated with the town sailing program. That's, I believe they're temporarily kept there, but they're not part of our boat count. So as far as we know, we're in complete compliance with the requirements of our special permits. And I'm not aware of any enforcement being taken by any zoning official regarding non-compliance with prior permits. So that's the best I can do on short notice on that issue.
Thank you.
I'd just like to add, adding finger piers or floats does not necessarily mean that there will be additional boats permanently a part of the yacht club's configuration. There, one of the things is a sailboat setup pier. So if you're about to head out on a sail, if Greg Morse is in the room, he could attest to this. If your boat's on a mooring or your boat is somewhere, you're a member of the harbor, you're gonna pull your boat in to the finger pier, you're gonna stock your boat, and then you're gonna leave. It's not permanent. And if anything, adding piers could alleviate congestion rather than create more congestion. But a pier does not equate a boat or 2 boats. It could, but there's no evidence in front of us that it has or that it will. What's in front of us are the additional piers to get the yacht club into compliance. And as we worked with you and your application, the board is working with the Green Harbor Yacht Club on their application. And I, for one, see nothing objectionable about their request.
Can I jump in on something?
Sure.
So I agree with you, Brian. One thing that I was worried about is the potential of them putting a finger pier all the way to the end and blocking Mr. Bono's access to his area. I don't know if that has been discussed or if there is a final location of the last pier on their dock that is.
One here. So we moved
it-
it. We moved it.
Grover?
So how far back is that from how far back is the first finger pier going to be from the end of that dock? I basically just don't, I don't want down the road, Mr. Bono is going to have an issue getting out there if you end up putting a 10 or 15 foot finger pier on the end of that and block his access.
So that finger pier is located entirely within the yacht club's reconfiguration zone. So that's the zone where they're allowed to reconfigure their floats, provided they don't add any square footage where they wish. And it's located, if you see on the site plan, it's located inboard of the very end of the main and well within the limits of the reconfiguration zone.
Nancy, can you put the site plan up?
I
Please?
understand the reconfiguration zone, but it's is a detriment to your neighbor. And is that within our purview? Is a question I have for Bob.
The special permit in 2009, I believe, authorized the reconfiguration zone, which candidly is a creature of Chapter 91, but apparently was presented to the board. But you'll see that that finger float is located substantially inboard of the end of that main. And, I'm sorry, Kevin.
I'm sorry, yeah, that plan, if you could show, I believe that's Plan 1, if you could show Plan 2. There were 2 plans that were submitted, Plan 1, and it shows in red. I don't see the red on that plan. It shows in red where the location of the float is at.
Well, bottom line is you're just going to be reconfiguring the area that's already being utilized, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, Grover's concern, and frankly, I had the same concern, is that you're going to block your neighbor in, but you're staying within what you've already had, just putting these finger piers within that area, correct?
That's correct, and I might suggest that if there's any concern with navigational interference, that's really an issue for Mass DEP and the Waterways Program when they review the Chapter 91 license.
Well, last time your neighbor was here, there was quite a controversy from your side against him having a pier.
Yes, sir. I don't have all of the information, and I
Yeah.
don't pretend to have all of the information.
Yeah. So you guys gonna, the 46 boats that are allowed there currently, is that what you're going to continue to stay with, the 46 boats?
Yes, if I could just touch on that last finger. That's where the sailing boats are. It's not where one of the club members' boats are. That's a dinghy dock. This is a sailing boat. And if he's concerned, well, just my thinking, if we're gonna be blocking his access, blocking our own access, getting in and out, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yep.
We wouldn't block our own access going in and out, so we wouldn't be blocking his access going in.
Yeah, but I can see Grover's point, I just wanted to make sure that, you know, your neighbor's not being blocked out. He has, he bought a house on the river for probably the
Yep.
exact same reason you guys are on the river, and he wants to utilize that,
Right.
you know?
No, I agree, 100%.
Yep, great.
Go ahead.
A couple things. The 46 boats, it doesn't specify if it's a power boat, a sailboat, a rowboat, all of which are boats. So those do factor into that number. And Attorney Brodsky mentioned that the reconfiguration zone does allow for some reconfiguration, and he mentioned as long as it doesn't increase the square footage. This is increasing the square footage, so that has to be considered, in my opinion.
That is
I think
correct. That's
Brian
why
made
we're
a
here in
good point.
front of you.
I think Brian made a good point, though, that boats are gonna be coming and going, that you're gonna have 46, you're gonna have 22, you're gonna have 21, you're gonna have 46, and they're gonna be coming and going at all times. So the 46 boats, the way I look at it is, you know, pretty reasonable if that's what's gonna be there.
I agree that 46 would be reasonable,
Yeah.
but it's, creeping past that, and by their own project narrative, they're attempting to add boats with the additional slips. That's just their words.
I've not heard that. I've heard adding additional floats, not adding additional boats.
Adding
That's
additional.
what I heard.
If they're not trying to add additional boats, then I don't know why even bother.
Well, that's not a good
Because
concern.
we can't
Well, the
add
narrative explains
additional square
they're
footage in a reconfiguration zone without coming to you. That's the whole purpose of
Exactly.
this exercise.
They have the right to do that, just like you had the right to come before us for what you were looking for. They
Understood.
have the right to come before, but what you're stating is not actually accurate. So you stated what you thought, Mr. Brodsky answered it, and now we get to decide if we have any questions. That's how it works.
I just pulled from the project narrative that said
Great.
the 5
Thank you.
additional floats were to accommodate additional boats.
Thank you.
All right, is there any more questions from the audience? Anything from the audience online? Seeing that there's none, I'm going to move that we close 2522 Green Harbor Yacht Club Incorporated, 257 Dyke Road. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Ryan Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, aye.
Mac Brothers,
Jeannie,
aye.
oh, sorry, Matt.
That's all right. I'm gonna let you go
Everyone's
before
aye.
me.
Not she's
My
here.
first, my first Zoom, Matt, sorry.
All right, so I move that the board vote to grant the special permit pursuant to section 305, 1302, and site plan approvals pursuant to section 305, 1202, to allow the alteration of the existing location of the finger floats within the reconfiguration zone. Sorry. The grounds are that the proposed project meets the performance standards set forth in section 1302 and performance standards and design standards set forth in section 1202 of the zoning bylaws. The reference plan is site plan A dated February 2019 by John Capacefalo, P.E. Last revised date on the plan is 5/1/20. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye.
Ryan Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Everyone's aye.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. All right, so now we have,
Oh, right here.
What?
I love feeding them the drinks.
What's it?
Oh, I,
Supposed to stay this last weekend.
Oh, geez.
Friday.
Hey, Kev.
It's always Saturday weekend. I'll know tomorrow going for the MRI. Yeah, see ya.
No, thank you.
Night.
Night.
I didn't know his father passed. All right, so now we have 2502 Celebrity Realty LLC. Saying it correctly this time, off Main Street.
Let's see for how long.
Yeah,
It's Rob.
yeah. Rob, he's back.
Yeah.
Ironically, I took my sailing lessons at the Green Harbor.
No kidding.
That's cool.
Most of us
That's where you
did.
learned?
That's where I learned. Yeah.
Now, is there a plaque? It all started here for Greg?
Wouldn't have these on.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me, Peter Freeman?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Is it possible for that plan to be taken down from the screen just because it's blocking everything that I can see from the past application?
Sure. Nancy, would you mind taking that down, or one of the IT guys?
And there is a
Uh,
copy of our plan that I submitted digitally too, so if it's easier for you to look at it on the screen, I'm sure Nancy could put it up as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll get started anyway. For the record, Peter Freeman, Moriarty, DO. Sorry?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, Peter Freeman, representing the applicant. And of course, you know Greg Morris, the engineer, who will certainly address you with a lot of the technical things. I'll try to be succinct, and I think we can be very focused. Point one, this is not the inland wetlands bylaw, but the other bylaw on fill, section 11.03. We agreed that we need a special permit for that. That's separate from the inland wetlands bylaw. And details on that, after I speak, Greg can give you whatever information he needs to present and questions that you have. Secondly, although I'll reserve my client's right, based on the memo that I sent, which did cite case law that I had just submitted to you folks, that was addressed to Bob Galvin and Andrew Stewart last week, in which I submitted that the bylaw doesn't apply because there's no real use permit and that the road isn't a lot. But for tonight, I'm not going to make that argument because we agree with Andrew Stewart, the building commissioner's analysis. So we are here, we're pursuing the special permit under the inland wetlands bylaw. We agree with Mr. Stewart that it should be looked at as one whole parcel, the two existing lots that have merged, but the entire premises, because that's what exists now. The subdivision has not been approved yet, so the 10 individual lots have not been approved. So the next step would be, if you agree with that and grant the special permit under the inland wetlands bylaw, and we would agree because of the requirement that with that permit that a lot be connected to municipal water. We would agree that the front lot would connect to municipal water. And then Mr. Stewart has said, same thing he said at the end of the last meeting, but it was getting later and the focus wasn't there, and I really just heard it as well. He is now saying what he said at the end of that hearing, and he communicated by email with Greg, I think this morning. Once that happens, if you grant that special permit, we believe, as does Mr. Stewart, after the subdivision from the planning board is approved, because once the special permit is approved, then the planning board should, we presume, approve the subdivision. So once that happens, all of the lots meet the criteria within the inland wetlands bylaw for the exemption. Greg can give you the details, but the three criteria, essentially being outside of the district itself, and an 80% of the normally required lot area being complied with. So we look at it that at that point it's the 10 lots, and we meet those three criteria because everything's outside the district. So That being the case, if you agree, what we would propose and ask for is first a special permit for the fill, separate item. Secondly, the special permit under 1301, the Inland Wetlands Bylaw. And as part of that, if you so vote, we would ask that you make a finding or ruling that based on that, and with the condition that the lot up front be connected to the municipal water, that there would be no need for a special permit under this bylaw, and no need for water connections for the other lots in the subdivision. So I'll stop there, and then Rob can show you on the
Rob.
plans, and
back.
certainly both I and Mr. Morse, Greg, will answer any questions. I promised him I wouldn't do that, but.
Oh, you did it. We appreciate the Rob.
So in any case, that's what, I wanted to present, and Greg can supplement now with the important plans and things.
Go ahead, Greg.
Sure. For the record, Gregory Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering. Kind of to reiterate what Attorney Freeman was saying, we spoke with Andrew Stewart. I met with Andrew Stewart last week regarding this, and you heard from him at the close of last meeting that looking at the site as it exists today, there are not 10 lots are out there. It effectively is one large piece of property. It's 18 acres, but it has not been divided into the individual lots at this point. Andrew's interpretation of the bylaw was as long as it was serviced by municipal water, which the front lot certainly would be, that it appears that it would meet that requirement in the special permit criteria for the inland wetland district. The lots wouldn't be individual lots until approved by the subdivision, then the roadway gets built, then the lots get released, and at that point in time, individual building permits would be needed. And how this was laid out, this was all laid out so that each of the lots meet the specific criteria in the bylaw for an exemption from the inland wetlands district. The second paragraph has 3 criteria that would exempt it. So while the fill for the roadway, for the access portion of the site, certainly does require the special permit, the remainder of the lots at that point in time when they get built, when the lots exist, would meet the criteria because all of the lots are partially outside of the district. They all include a contiguous portion that's at least 80% of the minimum lot size in the district, and all of the homes are outside of the inland wetlands district. The only thing that's in the inland wetlands district here is a portion of the road. All of the houses are outside of the district in their entirety. So that was my discussion with Andrew. And that's what I think, Attorney Freeman is pointing out to you, is that with the grant of the special permit for the road, it would technically meet your criteria because we are connecting to municipal water supply right now, with it being one big lot. When the project is subdivided by the planning board and the roadway gets built, at that point in time, the 10 individual lots at that point in time would not be subject to your bylaw because they meet the exemption criteria. I'd gladly go over any of the technical details if you have questions. You did have this peer reviewed by Pat Brennan. The planning board had it peer reviewed by Pat Brennan as well. The Conservation Commission and the Board of Health have signed off on this. We've had very little opposition. I don't think there are any abutters here in the room, nor have there been at previous hearings and with the other boards speaking up in opposition to this. I'm going to turn it up to you.
Okay. Bob, would you like to comment?
Sure, I mean, my opinion is you should deny the special permit for filling if they only need one lot, and then they can have one lot. Do not allow any special permit for filling associated with a subdivision roadway if there isn't a subdivision coming. If that's the way they want to do it. This is what I view as project segregation in order to manipulate the bylaw. And I think this is a perversion of the bylaws, plain language, and I certainly disagree with Andrew Stewart on this. They don't need a subdivision roadway if there's no subdivision. If it's a one lot and that's all they want to build, and they need a little bit of filling associated with that one lot, That seems to make sense to me, but then there's no subdivision fill associated, but that's not what they showed you. They showed you subdivision roadway fill, that's a use, that is a use permit under our bylaw. So if they want one lot, either deny them the special permit because the filling isn't needed, or give them the special permit limited to one lot, no filling associated with the subdivision roadway. Then you've complied with the bylaw. But what they're doing here is they're just segregating it, and they're coming up with a legal fiction in order to try not to comply with the bylaw.
Okay.
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, I could respond?
Yes, please.
It's clear that there's a disagreement between Bob and Andrew Stewart. But we're not creating a legal fiction, and we're not segregating. I think Bob's interpretation would basically make the 3 exception criteria in the inland wetland district bylaw basically meaningless, because it would essentially mean that any new subdivision where there's a roadway being built, which obviously there would be, if just a small portion is within the wetlands district, then because you need the approval and even whatever amount of fill for a roadway, you could never have any lots exempt, even if they meet those 3 criteria. So I don't think it's in any way a perversion. I think once the subdivision is created and we meet those criteria for the individual lots and the house construction, I think it's perfectly logical that you don't need additional special permits. And it's somewhat ironic, I acknowledge not directly on claim, but to me it's quite ironic that the Board of Health doesn't have any problem with the wells. Conservation Commission is okay, and the Planning Board seemingly is okay, but they felt as though we should go through the special permit application first. So there's a disagreement, but I would ask you to consider our viewpoint and rule in our favor.
Well,
So, Board of Health is concerned itself with septic systems. The Conservation is concerning itself with wetland resource areas that are defined under the Conservation bylaw. The Planning Board, the Zoning Board, the Building Commissioner, and the Department of Public Works all concern themselves with the zoning compliance. And, Andrew's not a lawyer. Andrew does a good job. I'm not criticizing him. He makes the decision in the first instance. But your board is his appellate authority, and you have Andrew's opinion and my opinion, and you can choose whatever opinion you wish to apply, but your opinion here will have consequences if you decide to allow people to engage in what I view as a fiction. And by the way, this isn't one lot, this is 2 lots, okay? They're in 2 separate ownerships. There's 2 lots, 2 separate ownerships. I don't think they've merged. Andrew said they merged, but merger only occurs when lots are in common ownership, not in 2 separate ownerships. So, again, I think it's completely permissible for them to have 1 lot. They may not need to even fill, and if they want to connect to town water, great. If they want to put a thing in there and they don't need any filling in any inland wetland, they can probably put a well in, if that's what they want to do. But this is a fill, which is a special permit associated with a subdivision, not a single-family house lot.
Would it alleviate,
I have a question, real
would
quick.
it alleviate their concerns at all if they hooked the water to the first house and then made it at a later date, made a 9-house subdivision behind it? That
I
alleviate
mean,
any
that's
of the-
exactly what they're trying to do. They don't want to comply with the development conditions.
Yeah, but they want all of it right now, all the special permits for the fill and everything right now. But if they just went and built the front house and hooked it up to water, and then came back and proposed a 9-house subdivision with the same special permits, would that alleviate any of their issues?
No, because, why would you give them permission to fill for a subdivision roadway if
But
they're
that's what
not?
I'm saying, not approve the fill for the subdivision, approve building the first house, give them whatever fill they needed for the first house, and then they'd
Sure.
be able to design a 9-house.
Yeah, if you put a condition that this allows the construction of 1 house on a portion of that lot and limited to that purpose, I think that that's within the scope of your authority.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
I appreciate the back and forth, but, clearly that would not work for my client. We would have to either withdraw or ask to continue again. But I think, and respectful disagreement, but I think the weakness of Bob's argument is he's conflating the fact that we need a special permit for the fill for the roadway. We acknowledge that. I hadn't focused on that last time, I acknowledge, just getting up to speed on it, but we acknowledge that. That's the starting point. But just because that exists, that just means that the special permit criteria come into effect. And I think it's perfectly rational. We're certainly not trying to, rig anything or do something crazy. That's not what I am known for. Doesn't mean I'm always right, but I'm certainly not, nor is my client trying to, rig anything. The fact is, there is effectively, they are two parcels, but there's effectively one combined lot that is seeking ultimately to have a subdivision approved for 10 lots. But right now, there's that one area locus, the 18 acres, and the individual lots don't exist. Once the individual lots exist, and they meet all the criteria for the exemption. So it just seems very straightforward to me that that's a perfectly rational way to look at it. And, a part of my memo, I think, was still applicable. The permits that are going to be applied for ultimately are for buildings. It says buildings or uses. But I still maintain that the road isn't a use. Yes, fill is considered in the table of uses a use, but once the road is built, we're past that. So I would stand on what, we said and Mr. Stewart's opinion. And again, I don't think I have anything further to add, but and when I mentioned the Board of Health, it's not just that they have jurisdiction over septic systems, but, it's the question of the private water well, which they approved. So it just does seem ironic to me that they're okay with that.
When I did my research and started thinking about this over the weekend, I was under the impression that there were currently two lots under common ownership. And I just heard now that that's not true.
It's not true.
And I remember Andrew very specifically saying, if there are two lots under common ownership, we as a zoning board we should consider that as one for zoning purposes.
Right.
If that's not true, that actually really changes my whole outlook.
Two.
Well, I mean, I would understand, let's say you want to build a road on this one zoned parcel, and you wanted to build a road to get to access to the back for whatever purpose. Let's say you wanted to build a riding rink for your horses. I get that. I could understand in my mind, I can get my head around why this is one lot, you want to build on it, a house in front, serves by public water, I get that, and then you need to build a road to get access to the back of the property. And you need a special permit. At some point, okay, it's pretty clear you're going to subdivide and you want each individual lot. 10 years from now, each one of those would then have to come in front of us if they ever wanted to make any changes, and we would treat them as a singular, not as a whole of these two lots. But if we're now talking about two different lots and you're building a road to nowhere, right, because the second lot is owned by somebody else, I can't get my head around that. That is the key to me is what is the end up use where this road goes to? If it could be viewed as one under common ownership, I got it. But if it's two, it blows my view apart. And I'm also not a big fan of variances. So I think to me, we're kind of, now all of a sudden, I think we're a little locked.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
just a brief response, and
Sure.
I respect that. I think, no question that we would ask to withdraw, not yet, but we would ask tonight to withdraw the application for the variance without prejudice. But albeit what you said makes logical sense, but it really becomes a question of timing, because if Mr. Celebrity or anyone had already bought the lots, then they'd be in common ownership. in the exact same physical situation and physical presentation, and the issues as to interpreting the bylaw would be exactly the same. So, to me, I'm not sure that there's a meaningful difference in terms of those parcels at this point in time, because again, if the owner, I see what you're saying, yeah, two separate owners, but they could become one owner very simply. Mr. Salisbury bought them, revised, and then the same arguments would be before you.
Bob, do you want to respond to that?
I don't know that I have a lot more to add. I mean,
Just saying.
they're filling for a subdivision, but they want you to pretend like it's just one lot.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
it's really what it is.
for a
And
subdivision.
you gotta remember, the purpose behind this inland wetland district is to prevent the inland wetlands, which serve as to protect our public water supply from being, impacted. And if you draw in wells into this thing, the reason why that's not just surplus language in there. You put it in there so you don't affect the inland wetlands that serve, water supply. So, go ahead.
In response to that, the purpose is to protect municipal water supply. This isn't in any municipal aquifer zone. It's not in the town's well protection zone. It's not in a DEP Zone 2 to any public drinking water supply or tributary to a surface water supply. It's not in any of those districts whatsoever.
And furthermore, those exemptions wouldn't exist if the purpose was to simply have no construction, in this district, even if construction was outside the lots, because it's a funny thing. I've honestly never seen it before. It almost in some ways seems as though it's a questionable legal zoning bylaw, that the district is determined by soil conditions. It seems, yes, based on some scientific evidence way back, but it's a bit strange in that regard, and I echo what Greg just said. And again, I think it gets to the superfluousness of those exemption criteria. If the intent was, as Bob said, to basically not allow construction in a district where nothing that will be built other than the road, which is the first issue, nothing will be built.
Well, I'm just going to throw
Can I
out, excuse me,
say something?
Jean?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, my first Zoom. Couldn't be there tonight.
Do you want to say?
I'm full agreement with Bob and Matt. Till tonight, I thought this was owned by one person. I didn't realize the lots were separate, and unfortunately, Attorney Freeman, I disagree with you. I feel like I go back to Bob and I go, what did he say? That's my comment. That's all I wanted to say. So.
Thank you, Gene.
Thank you, Gene. Jumping off of Mac's hypothetical situation, it's two lots, but let's say it's that Mr. Celebrity finds his wallet and buys both. So now it's one lot, and he's living there in the front house, and he decides he wants to recreate the Ponderosa. So he puts some sort of a riding arena on the back 18 acres, and he fills in to get back to his riding arena. So now he's got 18 acres, and he's filled in a bunch, and now he's got access to the back. And then Mr. Celebrity moves on to greener pastures and sells it to whoever. And then the next person comes in. Now that area's been filled. Are we going to say that they could not do what they're proposing to do right now? They've filled in that area. They've got the single house that's connected to a well, connected to municipal water, and now they want 9, they've got the land, and they can legally build the subdivision road. They don't need a special permit for the road because it's a driveway that they're going to improve. But now they've got 9 house lots. I mean, if this took place over the course of years, would we be agonizing over it the way we are now, or would we say, well, that's what exists? I know it doesn't exist today, but if this were to exist over time, and I think that goes to Bob's point, like, this is, they're trying to put the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
Is there a legal definition for what it means to be served by public water?
Yeah, connected to the municipal water supply.
But connected.
Correct.
Yeah, with a metered.
Does that,
connection.
okay, but does that mean that it's the primary water supply for the building?
It's in the
Well, when
language.
it says the lots in the development shall be served by public water supply, it doesn't mean one lot.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, what does that actually mean? So, what we've
I mean,
heard,
there should be one main connection at the street. And then there'll be a main that goes under the subdivision roadway and feeds off to individually metered houses. That's what would normally be the case.
You know, from my perspective, these aren't going to be 1,200 square foot, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom capes. These are going to be, you know, each house is going to sell for well over $1 million. And if the cost of bringing water to each house is $50,000 a house, that's a fraction of the value of the lots, a fraction of the value of the finished house. You know, maybe we're talking $2 million by the time it's all said and done. I'm in favor of giving them the permit to fill, and you know, I was opposed to the idea of a variance, and you know, the whole 2-lot, 1-lot thing. I just connected to. I know that there's a cost associated with it. Just connect it to municipal water and be done with it. You can get out of here tonight.
Mr. Chairman?
Time is money.
Yes, go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt. Thank you. Again, Peter Freeman. I couldn't agree with you more, but it's not just the cost that it would be in a regular subdivision of maybe 50 grand per house, as you said. And in fact, that was the reason for the variance, and it's the reason why he's in this predicament. The water department is insisting that he can't just use the existing pipe that's out in the road, and Brett can correct me or affirm, but they're going to make him to connect the houses there, other than the front one. They're going to make him put in a new water main, I think bigger, or at least a newer water main, for something like, what is it, Greg, half a mile, 3/4 of a mile, and that's like an extra $1 million or more dollar expense.
I believe it was pointed out that it was the Highland Street intersection, and you
Connection.
quoted it was the cost of where you came with the 50,000 a lot, it was a $500,000 estimate to bring the water.
Yeah, Peter,
water line
before
down.
you got involved, to Larry's point, we heard a figure of about $500,000 to bring water to the houses. So, say it's 600,000. We're still talking about a drop in the bucket, in my opinion. And I only speak for myself, clearly.
I respect that. I wasn't at the previous hearings, and I might have misremembered what my client told me, but
Yeah,
I hear you.
just so
I hear
you know our frame of reference. You know, maybe it's a little bit more, possibly it's less.
One point though, and Greg again can supplement, we might as well, if you're so inclined naturally, to go forward on the fill special permit under section 11.03. It makes sense, since we're here, to hopefully accomplish that one way or the other. We hope you grant it. And then my client is away on school vacation, that's why he's not here by Zoom. I'm not sure that there's any further way out of it, but I guess I would probably ask to continue the remaining special permit.
Bob, they want to go forward on what special permit?
For the
Which one?
fill?
The 11.03, that's separate from the inland wetlands. The fill special permit is 11.03.
But if you continued this and brought it back and you addressed with your client to connect into the municipal water, at that point, you'd be satisfying.
No,
They're connected.
they're connected.
They what?
They're connected, Bob's saying.
Yeah.
Well, would you like to extend again, or?
Well,
And think
whatever
about-
your pleasure is, Greg and I had discussed it. We think it makes sense to just go forward and accomplish at least the separate special permit on the fill. Because if you don't grant that, then the whole subdivision is dead, no matter about anything else on the inland wetlands bylaw.
You could grant it, but it would be subject to obtaining a further special permit from the fill requirements of in the inland wetland district.
Right.
I mean,
So we can only give you the partial permit. I don't know.
you'd be better off denying it without prejudice if they're going under this one lot theory, you know?
I'm on board with exactly what Brian Sullivan
I
was
agree.
saying. That if it came back and kind of tightened things up a little bit, the water connection, to me, is important. I have no problem with seeing this subdivision developed. It's gonna be beautiful, obviously. I did the site visit, it's gorgeous back there, but I'm pretty much on.
I want to say one other thing. This is, Horseshoe Farm is off of Spring Street, right around the corner. It's not that far away. It's probably less than a half a mile around the corner. A.W. Perry brought the water up the street. Cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars to get the water there. And that's what they did, so.
Oh, I think you've heard the board. Would you like to continue, or?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yes, I would.
Okay.
I think we should continue. I appreciate your time. I understand it's, a challenging bylaw, and I apologize that, my client couldn't be here. So, yeah, let's continue it for whatever your next meeting is.
5:13, Nancy, right? So we're going to continue 2502 Celebrity Realty LLC off Main Street to 5/13/2025. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye?
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Jean,
Irwin's, yeah.
Larry Berger.
Oh, my God.
And we're going to continue 2502A Celebrity Realty LLC off Main Street, the variance, obvious, to 5/13/2025. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye?
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Grover?
Irwin's, yeah.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you then.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we have the continuation, the request to withdraw without prejudice, Bob? On dry seal?
I mean, he's withdrawing his appeal. If he
Okay.
withdraws his appeal,
That's it.
that's it.
So we don't have
Do
to
we
do
have
anything?
anything in writing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
do.
we
You have
do.
an email from Attorney Creed. He did write an email.
So do we have
And
to
it
do
was-
anything on it, or no?
No, it's just
All right, done.
approve the withdrawal and hasn't
So we're
taken
going
the
to
time
approve the
appeal. He's
withdrawal
bound.
of 2510 Junior Dry Seal Trust, 605 Plymouth Ave. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye?
Brian Murphy, aye.
Heidi Conway, aye.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Jean Lee, aye.
Irwin's, yeah.
I just want to make sure this is.
And now we have 2412 Carolyn Walsh, 19 Brighton Street. Petitioner is requesting a minor modification to install a 4-foot by 10-foot platform at flood elevation height at the right side of the dwelling and accommodate an AC unit and generator. Go ahead.
Hi, Arthur Hale, Hale Brothers Construction.
How you doing, Artie?
Good. I talked to Andrew. We always usually just put the utilities on, whatever's the less for environmental and electrical. All the utilities are there, the poles there. And he said, you have to have it on the plan. I'd never done that before. So he goes, you gotta give it on the plan, bring it back to you guys. He goes, Pearl Street just did it. It's the project right by us.
Yeah.
So I said, okay. So I called Rick, he put it on the plan, and there it is.
There it is.
That's, I've never had to do this
Minor
before.
I can't even see it.
Well, it's a-
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I
No,
can
he's-
hear it.
Okay.
I can't see it. I feel like it's like. Where is it?
There it is, right there.
It's just doing the same thing like they did.
It's on the backside corner.
Yeah, they did it
No one's on the other
much
side.
bigger
Yeah.
than you
No,
did.
it's on-
Yeah, it's not that big.
Yeah.
No one's on the other side of it.
It's just what we have to have for code for the generator to be away from the house and the AC unit.
There's a driveway.
So,
I mean, we went through
There,
this exercise in the most recent
Yes,
thing.
and I said no.
I don't see a problem with it. Anyone else have a problem with
Are
it?
you
don't-
close to the line or anything? Are you like on the lot line or anything like that? or
No, the actual, the platform is 2 feet away
From the lot line?
from the lot line, yeah.
And what
Yeah,
is-
the house is 5 feet, over 5 feet.
5 feet.
Grover and Gene, you guys have, does anyone have anything to add?
I don't have anything on the platform. I don't have a problem with it. And I wouldn't bring anything up for this meeting, but I do want to discuss how we can implement or suggest time limits like we did on Plymouth Ave for the new pump station, on when the generator can run. Like with all these houses so tight together, and now we're raising these generators up to like the floor level of all the houses around them, since everyone else is going up. I feel like there should be some kind of like restriction on, say like Monday through Friday, 9 to 3 p.m. on those test runs, since they run every week. I'm just surrounded by an orchestra of generators all week long and
Yeah.
weekend, so I just feel like that's something that should be brought up.
Well, why don't you bring it on the next agenda with Nancy? And
Okay, yeah, appreciate it.
Grover, I think that's an excellent idea.
Great idea, Ruben.
Thank you. Sorry, I can't hear you over the
They run
generator.
once a week.
No.
I agree
I
with
mean,
you.
I agree with that, like
Yeah,
9 to
I think
5 or
it's a good
something.
idea.
You don't run it at night.
But so,
Do
Yeah.
they run them at night?
I
Is it
don't
like-
think so.
no, the new,
But they're on-
thing, that new
The new
project.
ones?
Oh, do they?
Oh,
When they
that
test-
thing's been running
when they test.
because not just the old one's running, because
Old
we
ones what?
the old generator
Generator.
was running on nights because that thing runs the entire town sewerage. So.
Oh, the one on Plymouth.
Oh,
Yeah,
all
he's
right.
talking
That's
about
what I'm like,
Plymouth
what
Ave.
are you talking about?
Yeah,
That
so if
thing-
you're down on
that thing-
McCarthy or any of them roads,
That thing shut
hearing that
down.
thing.
Yeah,
When
you
they
can,
were fixing?
that's the old one they're running in,
Yeah.
but they had problem in there with electrical stuff.
Yeah.
So that kicked on because it had to run everything in there.
Yeah.
Well, those poor people that live down there were listening to that going.
yeah, no,
And that thing's old and loud.
yeah, except the guy in the house that's like 20 feet in the air. He probably don't hear nothing up there.
I don't know. but
The wind.
It's loud. No, that's a great idea,
He
Grover.
feels the house moving.
But so anyways, let's get back to this 2412 Carolyn Walsh, 19 Brighton Street. Minor modification, a 4-foot by 10-foot platform. Do I have a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye?
Brian Murphy, aye?
to close it. Minor.
Oh, sorry. No, we don't have to close it. This is just a minor
Oh, yeah,
modification.
okay, so.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Jean
From
Leon.
NZI.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
There you go.
I could solve the other problem.
Which one?
The last meeting. It's Marshfield Hills. You throw 100,000 on each house, right? You're gonna get the money. Problem solved.
Oh, wait.
Approve it. You're gonna get the money.
I like it.
Yeah, but they have to tell us they're gonna extend the water line. It has to come down from Highland Street.
You're talking $1 million.
Yeah.
100, you gotta sell them houses. It's
Yeah.
Marshfield Hills.
Yeah.
They're gonna be sold before they even go.
Thanks, Artie.
Problem solved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
All right, do we have, so now we have approval of minutes, Larry?
No, she said that she didn't have them.
That doesn't have them,
Yeah,
okay.
next time.
And the board discussion status on the modeling work, Environmental Partners
Oh, my
Group,
God.
Rear Bridle Crossing. We do have the new information on that, but we have no one here to discuss it with us. We have an updated plan, so I would just say, as far as that goes, we'll wait, that'll be at our next meeting that we'll go over that. And hopefully after the town meeting and election, we're gonna do a joint board meeting with the Board of Public Works and hopefully the Select Board, just to review everything we went through.
Great.
And do we have anything else? That's it, right, Nancy? We can't hear Nancy, so.
Move to
Oh, no,
adjourn?
can she not
Second.
hear?
All in favor?
Larry Keane, aye.
Brian Sullivan, aye?
Brian Murphy,
Poor
aye.
thing. Heidi, poor guy.
Mac Brothers, aye.
Poor things in there.
Jean Leon.
Programs AI. See ya.
Thank you.
See ya.
I mean,
Bye, guys.
by
See
the
ya.